His Majesty the King chairs a meeting of top educators to discuss proposals to upgrade the country's education system.
The U.S. military carries out its first drone strike from a base in Turkey against Daesh targets in Syria, and Ankara says the battle against the militants will be launched soon.
And the U.S. president warns U.S. lawmakers that blocking the Iran nuclear deal will accelerate Tehran's path to a nuclear weapon. Good evening and welcome to the News at 10.
Good evening.
His Majesty the King chaired a meeting attended by Her Majesty Queen Rania Al Abdullah to discuss the education system and proposal to develop the sector. During the meeting, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education Mohammed Nebat gave a briefing on the progress of the education plans and the ministry's strategy to upgrade the system, especially the General Secondary Education Certificate Examination, or Tawjihi. The King said all efforts should be pooled to enhance the various aspects of education, including curricula, students and workers in the field, in a manner to positively impact education outputs and provide the local labor market with skilled manpower. King Abdullah directed that the ministry merges schools with a fewer than average number of students to uplift the education efficiency and the performance of staff working in the field. He also urged close coordination between the Education Ministry schools and schools run by the Jordan Armed Forces to merging schools to remote areas covered by military education services and provide transportation for the students. The King also stressed the need to encourage students to opt for vocational education, expand teacher training, and continue updating curricula relying on modern technology to ensure quality output.
Border guards foiled one of the largest attempts to smuggle drugs from Syria into the kingdom. A spokesman of the Jordan Armed Forces Arab Army said border guard personnel thwarted the smuggling of over 5,000 blocks of hashish and 4.4 million Captagon drug pills. The spokesperson said it was one of the largest amount of narcotics seized while smugglers attempted to breach the frontier from war-torn Syria.
The Senate called for the protection of Jerusalem's Islamic and Christian holy sites from systematic and individual attacks by Jewish settlers who are backed by Israeli authorities. In a statement, the upper house urged the international community to shoulder its responsibility towards the Palestinians and apply UN resolutions that call for the restoration of Palestinian legitimate rights, foremost of which is the setting up of an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. The statement referred to the storming of Al-Aqsa Mosque by extremist Jews and called for a halt to excavation and acts of vandalism targeting holy places. It also called on Israel to ensure the unhindered access of worshippers to Al-Aqsa and the Dome of the Rock Mosque compound.
In the occupied West Bank, Israeli forces arrested 14 Palestinians after troops raided the cities of Nablus, Hebron, Ramallah and Bethlehem, as well as some East Jerusalem neighborhoods. The arrests have been an almost daily occurrence, with dozens rounded up on grounds of activism and against the occupation. In the occupied East Jerusalem, Israeli military authorities issued an order for a Palestinian to vacate his home, located in the Silwan neighborhood adjacent to Al-Aqsa Mosque, and to cede it to Jewish settlers. Pro-settler Jewish societies and advocacy groups are active in Silwan and other Arab neighborhoods of Jerusalem in a drive to seize more Palestinian-owned homes and turn these into settler enclaves.
Hundreds of people gathered outside the office of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency UNRWA today to protest against potential cuts in assistance. Some of the measures the agency plans include delaying the start of the academic year in some 700 schools across the Middle East. The step will affect almost 500,000 students in the region, 118,000 of whom are in Jordan, as well as 5,000 teachers in the country. In a statement released yesterday, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said UNRWA was a pillar of stability for Palestinian refugees and called for urgent donations to cover a critical shortfall in funding. An UNRWA spokesperson said that unless the budget deficit is covered, extreme measures were likely to be taken.
The budget deficit for UNRWA currently stands at $101 million. Should this deficit not be covered, UNRWA will have to take extremely difficult measures regarding the educational programs. One of these measures will include postponing the beginning of the school year.
The Pentagon said the U.S. military has carried out its first drone strike from a base in Turkey against Daesh targets in Syria. It said preparations were underway for the strikes by manned U.S. aircraft as well. Pentagon spokesman Captain Jeff Davis said an American drone aircraft carried out the first strike last Monday from a major airbase near the southern city of Adana. Turkey said today U.S.-led coalition will soon launch a comprehensive battle against Daesh terrorists from Turkish airbase. Ankara and Washington have been working on plans to provide air cover for a group of U.S.-trained Syrian rebels and jointly sweep Daesh from a strip of territory stretching about 80 kilometers along the Turkish frontier.
Syria was on the agenda as U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry held talks with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The meeting took place on the sidelines of a meeting of the 10-member Association of Southeast Asian Nations in the Malaysian capital. Russia has been trying to bring about rapprochement between the Syrian government and regional states, including Saudi Arabia and Turkey, to form an alliance to fight Daesh terrorist groups. Fighting Daesh was also a top issue during a meeting between Syrian Foreign Minister Walid al-Muallim and his Iranian counterpart Mohammad Jawad Zarif in Tehran. Muallim said Damascus supported any efforts to combat Daesh if they are coordinated with the Syrian government, but anything else would be a breach of Syrian sovereignty.
U.S. President Barack Obama warned that a block of the Iran nuclear deal by U.S. lawmakers would accelerate Iran's path to a nuclear weapon. Obama spoke at the American University amid a furious lobbying effort in Congress to secure enough support to ensure survival of the deal. The president said Iran will be more capable of building a nuclear weapon if the deal is blocked, and a military solution will only drive its nuclear development deeper underground. Opponents of the deal say it does not go far enough to ensure that Iran will never be able to develop a nuclear weapon, and argue that lifting sanctions on Iran will only empower it to do so. Obama said many of the criticisms which are made widely by Republicans in Congress can be attributed to what he's called knee-jerk partisanship and sprayed false fears about the deal.
Those who say we can just walk away from this deal and maintain sanctions are selling a fantasy. Instead of strengthening our position, as some have suggested, Congress's rejection would almost certainly result in multilateral sanctions unraveling. If, as has also been suggested, we tried to maintain unilateral sanctions, beefing them up, we would be standing alone. We cannot dictate the foreign, economic, and energy policies of every major power in the world.
Residents in the Yemeni capital Sana'a are stocking up on scarce food and fuel supplies after the government in exile decided to divert aid ships from the capital to the southern port of Aden. Yemeni government sources confirmed the move, though there was no official announcement. The decisions came as southern fighters backed by weapons and airstrikes by neighboring Gulf states have made rapid gains on southern battlefields against the Iran-allied Houthis. A spokesman for the anti-Houthi forces said the rebels were ejected from all of the key province of Lahej, bringing to 3 the number of southern provinces under anti-Houthi control. The Saudi-led alliance has been bombing the Houthis since March in support of the country's exiled leadership, which now seeks to re-establish its base from Aden. The Arab coalition has enforced a near blockade to the country to prevent arms shipments. Egypt tomorrow opens an expansion to the Suez Canal to great fanfare.
The project announced by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi a year ago is seen as the centerpiece of his plans to revitalize the country's economy. The estimated $8.2 billion project includes a 35-kilometer parallel waterway flanking the existing 145-year-old waterway, which links Asia and Europe. It also includes a deepening and widening of 37 kilometers of the existing canal, which will cut transit times for southbound ships by 7 hours and allow larger vessels easier passage. The Suez Canal Authority expects an additional revenue, $13.23 billion by 2023, up from $5.3 billion in 2014.
We worked and we sweat and we got tired. We have created history as Egyptians to serve the whole world. We were able to honor the oath to the great Egyptian people. God willing, on the 6th of August, we are announcing the start of the new Suez Canal operation. Work will start operating and we will start receiving all kinds of ships.
21 people died when 2 express trains derailed in a river in central India overnight after floodwaters weakened the tracks. The crash reignited criticism about lack of safety on the world's 4th largest rail network. This report has more.
Passengers are led to safety after 2 Indian express trains partly derailed into a river in Madhya Pradesh state. At least 21 people have been killed, dozens more have been injured. About 300 people were helped to safety by rescue teams. The head of India's railway board says a flash flood was responsible for the accident. Divers with cutting gear helped some trapped passengers to safety. India's government announced compensation payments for the injured and the families of those killed. Heavy monsoon rains and the tail end of a cyclone have wreaked havoc across much of India in recent days. A former railway minister says the accident could have been avoided with proper maintenance.
Japanese men, women and children held paper lanterns and walked around Hiroshima atomic bomb dome as the city prepared to remember victims of the nuclear bombing 70 years ago. About 150 people, mostly Hiroshima residents, took part in the half-an-hour march around the iconic dome. The walk is an annual ritual organized by a local Shinto shrine to remember victims who died in the bombing on August 6, 1945, when the city became the first civilian target of an atomic bomb attack. Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and U.S. Ambassador Caroline Kennedy will join thousands of people tomorrow for the Hiroshima Peace Memorial to commemorate one of the most painful days in the country's history.
Lleyton Hewitt continues his victory streak with a convincing straight sets win over compatriot John Patrick Smith at the City Open in Washington, D.C. The only other Australian in the field, Samuel Groth, moved on with a win over Brazilian Thomas Bellucci. Also in action was big-hitting American Sam Querrey, who needed 3 sets to beat Go Sodom of Japan. The field in Washington this week is the strongest it has been in years, with 9 of the top 20 players in the field. The top seed is world number 3 Andy Murray, who will see his first action today.
Slovenian Jure Kocian won the second stage of the Tour Jota in a 161-kilometer loop around Ogden, north of the Salt Lake City. The team Smart Stop rider won in a sprint sprint finish after the more than 3.5 hours on the road. The victory moved Kochian into a tie for the second place, just 4 seconds behind Kil Rijnin of United Healthcare Cycling, who won Monday's opening stage. The Laurie H. Miller Tour of the Utah will cover over the 1,000 kilometer in areas around the state capital over 7 days.
Smart Stop also in the third spot, so that's the lead out. BMC now hits out a little bit early, and Smart Stop coming up fast. It's Yuri Kotsian. Kotsian was really terrific last year, and he may be able to pick up the win here. He does. Yuri Kotsian.
And finally, hot conditions continue in most regions for the rest of tonight, with a chance for light rain in the south and eastern regions. Tomorrow, the heat wave that has been affecting the kingdom over the last few days will start to recede, but will remain hot in the Jordan Valley and Wadi regions, with temperatures still above seasonal average. Winds will be northwesterly moderate to brisk.
The Gulf of Aqaba should expect a hot day today with northerly winds and calm seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. To end the news, here's a reminder of our top stories. His Majesty the King chairs a meeting of top educators to discuss proposals to upgrade the country's education system.
The U.S. military carries out its first drone strike from a base in Turkey against Daesh targets in Syria, and Ankara says the battle against the militants will be launched soon.
And the U.S. president warns U.S. lawmakers that blocking the Iran nuclear deal will accelerate Tehran's path to a nuclear weapon. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news edition. I'm Nancy Khair.
And I'm Laway Balkar. Thank you for watching and have a good night.
Good night.